Here we are again, going to look at some more possibilities for our truth tables and validity and all of that. This section is called simple arguments, checking for validity, simple arguments. We are calling anything that has just two variables a simple argument, although some of those can even be rather complex, are impossible statement. And common forms, things that we can look at and go, oh, yep, that's valid, okay? And then how to set up an actual truth table and how to check its validity when you're done. That's what we're going to look at here. And then, of course, as always, you have your Chapter 7B reading log and your Chapter 7B exercises. And these are going to be 7.7 through 7.9. And they're going to be over on, I wrote things down, pages 251 to 254. And 7.8 and 7.9 are kind of a smush for our last two sections. So for B and C, you'll be using those same two sets of exercises. We're going to do 7.7 here in 7B, but the others anyway. So this section is 241. Okay, 7B, I don't know where I'm going to put this. Here. Pages, where are we? 241 to 245. Jiminy Christmas, this is why I do all this before I get on here with you. 245 at the top, okay? When you see the piece that says tricky arguments, stop, okay? That's not part of this. Now, for your reading log, you know you need at least a page. My advice to you for this one is do the definitions and write things down as far as the review notes and stuff are, and then do some examples. I'm going to put at least 3 on the board here at the end so you can kind of walk through with me how we do this and make sure that you have a full page. It's good to have directions and an example or two just so that you have something to look back at. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. So our big idea, every time we think about a truth table, this is what we're trying to show. It's impossible for a valid argument to have all true premises and a false conclusion. Okay? If we have all true premises and a false conclusion on any one row, it's an invalid argument. Only takes one. Okay? Think of it like a drop of poison. Okay, it doesn't matter that there's only a drop of poison in that glass. I ain't drinking it. Okay, it's not good. So, if we can show through our truth table, because you know what we're doing with the truth table is giving all the possibilities of combinations. And then at the end, we can look and see, oh, that's valid, that's not valid. And I'll show you those when we get to that little piece. Okay, we're going to keep a hold of how we put things together. The number of truth values, which is always 2, the variables that changes, 2 or 3, that's all we're going to get to. 2 squared is 4 rows, P's and Q's, okay? If I add an R to that, if we have 3 variables, well actually here, let's do this. If we have 3 variables, we need 8 rows. That's by its powers. Now, I did a little bit of math in my book here. We're not going to go to R's today. Never mind. We're not doing R's today. Okay, next time. We'll get to that next time. Same thing here. Same as our standard, our givens, right? The conditional, the disjuncted, the lost it, conjunction. We know these things are always true and they always work this way. And they're going to be our guides for bigger and better arguments, okay? Well, at least bigger. We know that we have some interesting pieces here. And I started this here, the underlying structure part. So ducks have webbed feet. I want to show you how to mark this up too. Ducks have webbed feet. Okay. Ducks have feathers. And we can go down a whole list of things, but let's not. So, ducks have webbed feet, and ducks have feathers. This is my argument, okay? Not a very complex or weird one, it's just there, okay? Now, this is where color comes in handy, and I apologize to those of you who have color blindness of one sort or another. If it doesn't work for you, and I'm going to do it both ways, if it doesn't work for you color-wise, use a different way of underlining, okay, different symbols, different stuff, and I'm going to do as well, okay? So, if I'm going to mark this up, because I'm going to make a truth table, I'm going to look at its validity. You can still see this, right? Yes, okay, happiness. I'm going to look, my first phrasing is ducks have webbed feet. That's my P. Okay. Everywhere else in my argument that I have that particular phrasing, I'm going to mark with a P. Okay. Feathers. Oh, here's webbed feet again. Ducks have webbed feet. P. Okay. And my second phrasing, ducks have feathers, is my Q. Here again, ducks have feathers. I'm going to give it 2 lines so I can tell the difference, and it's a Q. Okay? So, my argument, and this is how we write it all the time, is my first premise is the first line, it's just P. My second premise is Q. My conclusion, and I know it's my conclusion because it says so, therefore, okay, you're going to do that. Now, I used to be able to find the 3 dots on my computer and it did an update, and now I can't find it. Shortest word for there is so. If you can't find the 3 dots, or you can't make the 3 dots on your computer, just say so. Okay? So, P and Q. Okay, that's my argument. Now, if I'm going to make a truth table, I'm always, always, always going to start with my 2 variables, P and Q. Okay? True, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. Always, always, always. Okay? And we follow our rules here, right? 2 truth values raised to the power of the 2 variables gives me 4 rows, okay? So I know I'm going to have 4 rows, and I know that my first variable, my P, is going to be half true and half false, in this case 2 and 2. My half rule from here, okay, this is 2 and 2. This one is going to be 1 by 1. It's half of that. Okay, that's how the half and half rules. So it's half of that, so it's going to be 1 by 1. So true, false, okay? Your last variable will always be true, false, true, false, true, false. Okay? It's half and half. Then, then I would normally put what you have to have next is each premise gets its own column, and so does the conclusion. Well, since my 2 variables are my first 2, I'm not going to repeat them. Okay, we'll repeat them later. So I always make myself a note. Okay, this is my conclusion, P and Q. Okay, and then I'm going to look at my little card that says, here's the truth table for P and Q. It always looks this way. So I have true and true is my only true. I'll look through the others. I don't have any other pairs of trues, so the rest of them are false. And this looks exactly like our P and Q given, okay? Now, what you have to do to check validity is you have to look at your false conclusions and make sure there's at least one false premise to go with it. If we have two truths, in this case, we have two premises, so all my premises are true, like this first line, I have a true conclusion. I don't have to worry about it, okay? When we get to longer arguments, your best, easiest way to go is to just look at your false conclusions and see if any of them have all true premises, okay? So this one, nope, has one, so it's okay. Has one, it's okay. Has two, it's okay. This is a valid argument, okay? As long as in each of these rows, I have at least one false premise, I can keep my false conclusion and my argument is still valid, okay? Easy peasy. Now we're going to shake it up a little, okay? I'm going to add some stuff. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you're running into trouble when you're doing the exercises, I'm probably going to put up some homework videos to help. But if you want to come back and practice, what you do is you let me put this up, pause, mark it up, see if you get the same answers I do, okay? And then pause again, make your truth table, see if you get the same thing I do, pause again, see about the valid, okay? Do this so that you can practice, 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 okay? So. When we look at more complex arguments, we have to get a little more detailed in what we're writing, and then we have to pay attention a little bit closer to a few other things, like negations, okay? I'm on page 243, okay? Okay, if the icebergs melt, the lowlands will flood. The icebergs will not melt, so the lowlands will not flood, okay? That's our argument, and I'm going to mark that up so we can see it. So the first one is the icebergs melt. That's the P, okay? The icebergs will not melt. That's a not P, okay? The lowlands will flood is a new phrasing, so I'm going to give that 2 lines on my Q. And it's down here again. The lowlands will not flood. Okay, so not Q. Okay? So my argument then is if P, then Q. Okay? My second premise, not P. My conclusion, not Q. Okay? Still a pretty easy looking one, right? Okay, we've got this not here and this not here, but that's okay. Now, if I'm going to make my truth table, I go through my list of things to do here. So I have just P's and Q's. So I have 4 rows again. My half and half rule is again, and you will have the same first 2 columns as we've been having all along, okay? Now, what I have to do in these particular pieces is to make sure I give each of my premises its own column. So if P then Q gets a column, not P gets a column, and then I have to give my conclusion its column. Okay? This is everything. Now, you'll notice up here, unlike the last one we did, P and Q don't show up by themselves as premises. So what I do, so I don't get confused, is I just do a little dot, dot, dot line. This part is my guide. Okay, that's how I'm going to find out what relationships these guys have. And then this part is my argument. Okay, so my guide is over here. And my argument is over here. And if you set them up this way all the time, you'll have a much easier time making sure that you've got things correct, okay? And that's part of what this is for, right? It's to get more precise. We can mess with those all we want, and some of us will do just fine, but this is easier, right? One letter is much easier than a whole sentence. So that and when you're writing on the board, blah. So anyway, so if P then Q, I have my little card. It's going to tell me that if I have two truths, if P is true and then Q is true, my whole sentence is true. True to false, okay, P to Q this way is false. If I have false first and then true, it's true. If I have two falses, it's also true. Okay? Now, I will also tell you, and again, my apologies to those of you who don't see color the same way most folks do. If you can, if color works for you, by all means, use a different color. If not, don't worry about it, okay? I have not P. So not P is the opposite of P. So I have to look at my things here, and where P is true, not P is false. Where P is false, not P is true, okay? Same thing for Q. Where Q is true, not Q is false. And where Q is false, not Q is true. Okay, so that's my whole truth table. Okay, again, not too horrible. I have two false conclusions. Remember, I really only have to look at my false conclusions and see if they have all true premises. If that's never happens, then I have a valid argument. If it does happen, even once, I have an invalid argument. Okay, so we're all having this here. So this one, and I'm just looking at the premises. I'm not going all the way back to here because they're not actually part of my argument this time. That's just a guide, okay? So my false conclusion here has one false premise. That's all right. This one, however, my false conclusion has all true premises, okay? It's invalid. Now, when you do these for homework, okay, one of the homework examples has something from our old chapter 6, which was this chapter, and wow. Okay, so when you're doing this, I don't mind if you do the marking up in your book or whatever, make sure it's a book that you're not just borrowing or whatever, but anyway, happy days. I tend to do that in my book, but I also tend to write things out, so I need to write things out. Always, always, always start here and write out your argument, okay? And then do your whole piece here. Now, if you're going to practice, okay, again, I'll write up the whatever I have on the board, the argument, pause, mark it up, play, see what you're going to get. Have your argument, how do you put it on here, okay? Pause, do what you got to do, come back, get your answer, okay? That's the best way to use these for practice, okay? So, invalid argument, a couple of knots in there. I have a few things I want to show you, so we're going to do a couple of really silly, here's the deal, so that you have kind of how they work. So if I only have two variables, okay, if I only have two variables, it sounds like it can't be a very complex argument, right? We can have lots of premises, lots and lots of premises. So we have some things to play with here. So I'm just going to start right with the argument in standard form. Okay, so if P, then Q, P and Q, P or Q, therefore not Q. Okay, that's my argument. And we're just going to call him A, in case you have questions for me. Okay, so again, I still only have two variables. I have my P and my Q. So I know true, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. Okay. Yeah. Now, the only time I'm looking at each row, and each row only has one symbol in it. So I don't have to do anything else for my guide until we get something with more than one symbol in a line, and then we'll have some fun. Okay? That's with parentheses. Anyway, if P then Q, here's my premises, each one gets its own. P and Q, P or Q, therefore not Q. Okay, I have a little bit of work to do. Okay, so I know for the if then that this is my only false from my rules, right? So my other ones are true. For P and Q, I know this is my only true. For P or Q, I know two falses are my only false. And I know when I get to not Q that it's opposite day for my regular Q. So if regular Q is true, not Q is false. And where Q is false, not Q is true. Okay, so that's my whole argument. Not so horrible, right? I have two false conclusions, and again, I'm looking to see if my argument has at least one false premise, then I still have a valid argument, but I don't. Okay, so my false conclusion has all true premises. Invalid. I will tell you, most of the time when I make these up off the top of my head, they turn out invalid. Go figure. Okay. Ooh, I was supposed to give you those common forms. We'll have to have one with that too. Okay. Invalid. Everybody see how that works? Now, it doesn't matter that this one down here, this false, had a false. It would be right because we already have our line. Remember, 1 drop of poison, not drinking the water. Okay. I am drinking some tea, though. Lubricating the back of my throat, which is not happy with me today. Okay. You know, pause, rewind, or whatever you got to do there. I want to do 2 more. I think I want to do 2 more. Yes, I want to do 2 more so that you can have a little bit of a range of examples. Okay, my second one, B, not P, and not Q, P or not Q, therefore not P. Okay, now this is going to be the fun part, one of the first fun ones. So I'm using my same rules. Okay, I have 2 variables, just P and Q. Putting a not in front of it does not make it a new variable. So just P, just Q. Okay, and we know our normal. Right? True, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. Okay? Not too horrible. Now, remember the last time I told you we have to look at our premises and make sure we only have one symbol in each line. And how are we going to make that happen? This one has 3. Well, we make it happen because we make something go away. We, how I say it, parse it out, okay? So this one has 3 symbols, okay? So I'm gonna do a not P here, gets rid of that one, and a not Q, and that gets rid of that one. On the second one, I already have my not Q, so there we go. Okay, this is my guide this time, these 4 columns. So again, we know that the nots are opposite day. Okay. Now, I can say not P and not Q, P or not Q, therefore not P. Okay, so I give each of my premises a column and my conclusion a column, my 2 variables, in this case a column, and anything I need to do to make it so I only have to do one thing at a time. We're good. Okay, so here my first premise is not P and not Q. We know that the only time an and is true is if both of, we call them conjuncts, both of the phrasings are true. Okay, both my variables are true. So I'm using not P and not Q, their truth values here, to figure out what this statement's truth value is. Okay, so I know false and false is false. And it's the same thing that's on your little card. Not in the same order up and down, but the same way across. Okay, so false and false is false. False and true, false. True and false, false. True and true, true. Okay? Now, we also have this other one. I'm going to put that guy down so I can do this a little bit easier. I have a third color. Woohoo! Okay. So if I'm going to do this column, I want to see what the truth value relationship is for P or not Q. So P is this one, and not Q is this one. I have to ignore the stuff in the middle, okay? So, or, remember, the only time or is false is when we have 2 falses, okay? So, true or false is true. True or true is true. False or false is our only way it's false. And false or true is true. They're the same relationships across, okay? They're the same relationship across as we have on our givens, okay? That little truth table card I told you to make, okay? Now, the fun part here is we have our not P is already here for us, and it's always the same on the same row, okay? So I have to, right? I have to make sure that if not P is false on the first row, it's always false on the first row. Not P, not P, not P, okay? So again, I have 2 false conclusions, and so I have to go and look at just my premises and my conclusion, and my false conclusion has a false premise, so he's okay. And then this one, my false conclusion has a false premise, so that's okay as well. And so this is a valid argument. Oh, doesn't happen very often. Okay? So even though these are not in the same order as an and card, this in vertically, they are the same order this way. Okay? So keep that in your head. I know, a lot to keep in your head this time, so not so horrible. One more, and then I'll turn you loose on the homework stuff. That'll be fun, huh? Okay, my last argument, this is going to be argument C if you have questions. If P, then Q. Not P, not Q, Therefore, P and Q. Okay? That's my argument. So I'm looking at this. I have one symbol in each row, so I don't need extra on my guide. I just need a P and a Q. And I know how that works, right? True, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. Every time we have two variables, it's going to look like this. Okay, in 7C, we're going to add a third variable, and it still looks like this, but it's not exactly it. So I don't need anything else for my guide, so I can just put in my premises and my conclusion, and then I can figure my stuff out, right? Please, 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 always do it this way, okay? Put your argument out like this, each premise on its own line, the conclusion on its own line, and then set it up this way. P, Q, always, and then each premise gets its own column, and so does the conclusion. And then we fill it out across the blank. Okay, so if P then Q, true, false, true, true. Not P and not Q. Okay, not P is opposite day, so false, false, true, true. Not Q is another opposite day, false, true, whatever it is here, it's the opposite over here. And then we have P and Q, okay? Two truths, true, false, false, true, false, false. Oh, we have three. What are the chances that this is going to be valid? Not very much. Okay, so I have to look at my false conclusions. False conclusion number one has two false premises. False conclusion number two has one false premise, all we need. False conclusion number three has none. All true premises, false conclusion, invalid. Okay? Not too horrible. Don't forget, your reading log needs to still be a whole page. You can use notes from here and add some possibilities. And then we'll go on from there, okay? So be careful, do what you need to do on this, and we'll go on. I'm sorry, I'm blind. I can't see how many minutes we have. 32 minutes. Don't forget the review notes on page 242. Gives us the common arguments form symbolized, modus ponens, modus tollens, hypothetical syllogism, and disjunctive syllogism. We know these structures are already valid, okay? Now, we are going to have a couple of places in the homework where you get to work that out, and it'll turn up valid, okay? So you still have to make the truth table, follow the directions. Follow the freaking directions, okay? So, I hope that went well for you. Back things up in practice, come back to this. I'll let you know if I put up a homework guide as well, but we'll go on from there. So if you have questions, you know how to get a hold of me.